Hi guys! Simone and Suzanna asked me to be a guest on their Scale It Down series by choosing 5 items for us all to work with this week to create a page in our Traveler's Notebook. So here are the 5 things that I chose for us all to use. I picked some ribbon, an alpha stamp, some tiny word stickers, a 6x6 paper pad, and some sort of mixed media. Now I'm going to use watercolors today. It's not very often that you'll see me use mixed media of any kind in my Traveler's Notebook, so I thought I would give myself a bit of a challenge. Now I thought I would start by just going through my paper pad and choosing a couple of papers to work with. And I had pulled this one out of my drawer because it's relatively brand new and I've barely used it. So I figured this was a good chance to use some of the papers in it, but I just wasn't really sure what actually matched my photo that I've got here. So my photo is quite warm toned, so I decided to go the opposite way of that and pick out some blues. And the ribbon that I had chosen is actually a coordinating ribbon from the same collection, so that worked out quite nicely. And I'm just chopping off a couple of bits of that so that I can push some of this stuff aside, know what color palette I'm working with, and start using some watercolors. That's what I wanted to do first before I laid down my papers. Just using a little spray bottle to mist some of those blues in the watercolor set, and then I grabbed a fairly large brush and I'm just adding some really loose stripes. They're not even really stripes, just brush strokes to the page. I'm trying really hard not to add too much water. This page is not gessoed, it's just a regular old page in my pocket page notebook, so I didn't want to add too much water to it. And then on the other side, I'm just adding a few scattered spots of watercolor, and I am bringing those over onto the left-hand side to tie the two together as well. But I know roughly that I want to add my stamping and journaling to the left and my papers and photos to the right, so that's where I left it. Now, because I'm super impatient, I turned the camera off and hit that with my heat gun to dry it off a little bit. You do need to be a tiny bit careful heating up these pocket page notebooks not to melt the pocket pages under the paper. So I did that from quite far away and only short little bursts at a time. So it dried the paint, didn't melt the pockets, but it did warp the paper a little bit. And that's probably because these notebooks are not designed for mixed media like that without adding some sort of base or gesso to it first. And now I am just really haphazardly cutting off a couple of strips of this paper. I'm not going to end up using a lot, just these couple of strips, and layering them onto the right hand side, and I'm going to layer the ribbon there as well. Now the paper, because my paint is completely dry, I can just edit that with my tape runner, no big deal. But this ribbon, I'm going to use a bit of this red line tape just to make sure that it stays really stuck down. I'm not sure how ribbon's going to go in here, so I wanted to be as careful as possible. And then stick that down and just trim off the edge there. And actually afterwards I've flipped through this notebook a few times and the ribbon is not coming off in any way, shape or form, so I think that red line tape is a really good idea. Now I wanted to add my second strip of ribbon here, but it was going to cover up just about all of that beautiful paper, so I decided to just add a smaller piece at the bottom instead of running it all the way up the page. Now because this one's sort of a crocheted lace, it was slightly harder to get that tape backing off, but again the red line tape worked really well for that ribbon as well. Now where I wanted to put my photo ended up with this awkward little gap here, so I decided to maybe find another piece of paper to add in there. And I thought, since I already had that sort of measuring tape ribbon down, that one of these rulers from this ruler paper would look really cute as well. Now there are a couple of blue ones in there and I did trim them down, but I decided when I added it, it just needed a little bit more contrast. The dark ruler was too dark and the lighter blue one was too light. So in the end I decided to cut out this sort of tanny wood grain one, and I think it works much better. It sort of pulls the colours of my photos in a bit more. I think with the cream coloured ribbon and this sort of tan coloured ruler, it just brings out the warmer tones in that photo just really nicely, as opposed to adding all completely cool toned blue things under there. So now I'm happy with all of that, I can stick my photo down. I'm not totally happy with how straight the ruler is underneath it, but it is well stuck down and I don't want to risk ripping up the paper because it's got that watercolor on it. So I decide to just let it be as it is. Just going to pick out one or two of these tiny words, tiny phrase stickers, and add them to the bottom of my photo. Both in black and white. I don't mind the black one being on there because I am going to do some stamping in black on this side as well. I'm just using this, I'm using this outline stamp from Citrus Twist just to stamp out the word today. And then I'm just going to use my DIY stencil here to create some straight lines for myself to add my journaling. I've really been loving this lately. Normally I would either type my journaling and stick it on or just sort of freehand it, but I'm never happy when I freehand my journaling because I don't know why. I can never write in a straight line. It always slopes down, and when I'm finished, it annoys me. So I just created this stencil to avoid that, and so far I am really loving the result. The brilliant thing is, if I don't have enough lines, I can really easily add a couple more to finish off my journaling. I really wanted to add just a few, I don't know what they're called, little dots after my stamping, but there was no full stop stamp in the set. So all I've done is cut the little dot off the bottom of the question mark just to create a little dot stamp for myself. It really easily goes back on there and is no problem at all. And that is this page all done. Now don't forget to check out Simone and Suzanna's take on this challenge. I will leave the links to their channels down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there's a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye!